Hello everybody. First I'd like to thank you for inviting me. So it's my first time to be in the Ukraine, and I appreciate that a lot. So, and now I think it's my turn to tell you a few things about my office, about my country, about the way of thinking. So, and the lecture is called Every Time a New Challenge and the Human Focus. So actually, usually when I speak about my office, I'm speaking a lot about competitions because that's the way our office started. So around 16 years ago, we founded our office, of course without having any jobs, and we did competitions, a lot of competitions. Till now we have done around 300 or something like that, all over, so around the world. And luckily already the first one we won, and it was a very big one, very important one. So the building was never built, but the client said, "What's the problem with you? You're on every magazine. You're on the front side. So now you're famous. So you won't get money, but now you're famous." But today I'd like to speak a little bit more about the human thing within the architecture. And I start with this picture. I like this picture very much because it's actually, I think it's a little bit what we all want to have. Everybody wants to have his own home, and in the best way, it's the home which you're able to carry with you, and if you find a nice place, you put it there. So, and it's like this caravan, for example. And this caravan, I think it's very similar to the first project I'm speaking about. It's this one. Do you think the same, hopefully? So that's actually the second house we built. And it's a very, very simple house. It's a wooden construction, and as you see here, that's a truck. That means that you can bring it and put it wherever you want to. And the truck has another reason, because that's a truck awning. You know, that's the covering of the truck, and we use that for covering the house. An Austrian journalist for a magazine has rebuilt it. It's not from us, in Lego, so that you can see how simple the house is. Important for the house is, for example, and that's something I'm going to repeat and repeat again and again, that this house is not really founded. Yeah, it's floating. Actually, it's only sitting on 6 of these reinforcement steel sticks. So the surrounding can more or less float through the house. That's the view of the house, and that's the reason for the house. That's actually our first house, and we got a little bit famous with this house because it was, I think we were in more than 200 magazines all over the world with this house. But I don't want to speak about this house now. I only want to speak, I show it only because this house is the reason for the other house, because we got 3 doors delivered in the wrong size. And then my colleague said, what can we do with these 3 doors? Best thing is to build a house with that. And that's these 3 doors now. And so we started with these 3 doors and finished it to another house, a very small one. Another picture I do like very much, and for me it says something like, before I said, okay, don't use the surrounding, the garden too much. So another way to do that is to lift it up and put it on top of the house, as we did here. There was a small slope, and we said, okay, lift it and put it on the roof of the house again. I'm very sorry. So as usually the pictures are made when the house is brand new, so you don't really see it in this. So you only see a little bit what's going on up there. Now it looks much wilder, so it really looks like nature. You can see it a little bit later on, so it's a few images from inside, but that's a new photo, and you see a little bit what's going on up there. So with the slope we put on top of the house. So it's always a little bit the focus on saving space, and we are always, very often we are asked to build single-family houses, and of course as architect you're discussing a lot whether that's allowed or not, because you are losing a lot of area for only one house. So that's why we thought a lot about that, and we tried to create a house which does not lose so much ground. And so here you can see, sorry it's in German, but you see about the density of houses. So that's usually single family houses. It's something around, it starts from 0, but let's say the average is around 0.3, and high-rise buildings are starting here 1.2, and with the house I'm going to show you now, we reached 1.0. So it's almost like high-rise buildings. And so, okay, we had good luck with the site because the site is very, very narrow. It's only around 4 meters wide. And it's not only 4 meters wide, it also has 2 firewalls on both sides. So that's a sketch we did before we built the building. And then you see it, how it looks afterwards. So for us it has something like a Japanese feeling, and even this huge pole helps us for that, because this one did not exist when we built the house, and luckily we had, here's the garage door, and beside is the usual door, and they really put it in front of the door, so actually if there is no garage door you probably can't even bring in the furniture. That's the so-called garage, so actually the house is for a young artist, and he says okay that's his atelier, but actually all I saw there was the car in there. Then here some views from the narrow house inside. The house is called CJ5. That's instead of DJ, it's the cooking J, because that's he likes to cook and invite people, and that's why he's a little bit lifted up on the staircase, where he's able to cook and look around while all the other people are doing whatever in the house. So some more images of the house. And that's how the house looks now from outside. So this single family house is like the dream of everybody. That's the project we are just working on at the moment, and that's another special one we did a few years ago. It's special because what you do not see here, the neighbor is very, very closed. So these hiding things, so they are very focused to the view, so you are able to have the view through the house, but you don't see the neighbor, and the neighbor is not able to look into your house. So that's the other side, the very open side of the house. Another brand new house. The specialty on this house is that the client originally comes from the Austrian mountains, but even in Austria we do have parts in our country where there are no mountains at all, and he was more or less a little bit crying. He said, okay, I need to move there, but I need my mountains, and that you don't see it so good on this photo, but we gave him, we say that's the house on the hill. So we've built his own small slope, and that's, for example, so the house was not, it's at the moment it's almost done, but in winter time it was already used for skiing and for winter sports. Yeah, another project. I don't know why it's in here now. So, and as I told you before, we're always thinking, how can you still build houses? And you'll find in my presentations, you always find the first house again. This house Lina, and we always make projects where we say, okay, maybe there's a possibility to put it anywhere where it does not disturb at all, where landscape is not lost afterwards. And for example, once we tried to, let's say, staple it to a usual housing project in Vienna, so it does not look the same anymore, but it's so the system of the house is very similar. So, and once when you think about not losing so much ground anymore, so actually you should try to create a flying house. We've thought a lot of that, and now we'll speak about some projects, our so-called bubble projects we have done. So for example, this one, it's very old. It's just from the beginning of our office. It's from the Biennale in Venice 2004. So we created this cloud, and so the idea was to, in summertime and all the people go to Venice and it's very hot and they need something to cool them down, and that's why not bringing them the Austrian rain. And actually when we have designed this cloud, we were really thinking about traveling together with the cloud to Venice, but there was some mistake while we figured out the weight which is the cloud is possible to carry. That's the first pictures of Venice, and it always looks very, very small, but it has more than, I think it was almost 400 cubic meters. And you don't see that on these pictures, but you see it quite good on this one. So it was raining very good, and nobody was understanding. It has been raining for weeks. Where does the water come from? Actually, for weeks is not really the truth, because in this year there was this big thunderstorm in Venice, which took all the roofs and everything, and it took our cloud. So, but probably it's still raining anywhere in the world. So this blowing up theme, the topic, is also something which follows us the whole career. So, and once, also in the beginning of our career, we had the possibility to do it's called MAC Night. So the MAC is the Museum of Applied Art in Vienna. Very old and beautiful, and a great building with a big hole. And so what we did, we filled the hole with about 50,000 balloons. That's how it looked before we started. But we didn't only fill it for fun. It was not just for fun, let's fill it with balloons and let's make a foam party, or however you call that. At this moment we said, okay, as architect, you always have a lot of projects which are for nothing, you know, it's garbage actually. Before you do one project, you throw 100 away or something like that. So why not digging out all the old projects, they are more or less dead, and try to bring them back to life. And that's what we did on this project, because so these balloons, they were projected with pictures of our old died projects. And at the beginning, so it's the mass of balloons was there was no. Sorry, I'm missing the word. Okay, I'm going on. You'll understand later on. So then we said, okay, we blow some air in it, and then they start moving. So at the beginning, they were not moving at all. They start moving, and finally, we let people in. And so, in our mind, it was like bringing the life back to our dead projects, because the projects were projected on the balloons, and then the people were allowed to move into the massive balloons, and so the old projects started living. And the funny thing on this project was there were a lot of funny things, because, for example, the fire department came about, I don't know, 10 minutes before we started, and at the beginning you saw, I think that was the press text, what you read, and there was standing something about the 50,000 balloons, and at the end the doors will open and whole Vienna will be flooded by the balloons. And as this museum is in the middle of Vienna, and a very important place, and the fire department was afraid of all these balloons on the street, and they came and they said, okay, of course you are not allowed to start this show. It's much too dangerous in the house, and of course it's much too dangerous outside. We discussed about, I don't know, for half an hour, and then finally we found we call it the Austrian way. He said, okay, if you don't let in more than 100 people, then you are allowed to run the show. And at this time in the house there were about 400 people, and so we started. So, and for me the funny thing is that the man from the fire department was asking and discussing about everything, but never ever about a balloon and about a burning balloon, because that's around, I think it was 14 years ago, and at this time you were allowed to smoke everywhere, even in the museum. So, and we figured out on the day before we started the thing, so we choose the balloon. So we were looking for at the beginning of the project we didn't know what we were looking for, but for something we can blow up. And finally we said, okay, the easiest thing to do that is the balloon, but very late we realized that the balloon is burning really bad. So if you take a cigarette and try it once, what the balloon does. So maybe if the balloon is full, it's not a problem, because I don't know, the balloon will be able to blow the fire out. But as it was here, so at the end of the project, when all the 50,000 balloons were lying on the floor, exploded all of them, then it's really, really dangerous. Because if a cigarette falls down, then it really starts burning, and then it gets dangerous. Yeah. So another bubble project, this time a chair producing company asked all over the world, around 100 artists and architects, to do anything with their most important chair. And these chairs were afterwards, that's why it's called charity chair, sold in auction. And that's the chair they got the most money for. And we said, it's called the charity chair, why not share the charity chair and use it all together? Yeah, it's always the bubble, bubble, bubble again. So we were thinking about suitcase, and then you open it, and then there's a whole flat in there or whatever. But sometimes when you see all these bubble projects, sometimes you want to bubble bigger. And once we tried, I said I don't speak about competition, so that's one. We did it in Berlin. It was it's called Labels Berlin, so it's for kind of shops for textile producing companies and for yeah. And we said, okay, why not bubbling the whole house? So, and when you start doing that, so it's, I don't know whether you know about these bubble ceilings. You can save concrete when you fill it with bubbles. So even the construction was bubbled, and of course the house itself, the finishing of the house, it was a very high improved technical thing what we tried to do here. But finally, that's why I like to show the project so much. That's what the jury said. So the brilliant lightness of the design does not match with the heaviness of the surroundings. That's Berlin, if you have ever been there. So you know they want to have it very strong and heavy usually. So that's why we use smaller bubbles in a smaller scale for smaller buildings. That's a small gym we've built in Austria. And once for a highway garage in Austria too, we used bubbles in a little bigger forms, so that's you almost don't see it. But that's, for example, that's one bubble. So it's about 20 meters long and I don't know 5 meters wide. So what you see probably, it's not my topic today, but we see probably on all these projects we are trying to use a lot of different materials. So actually we use everything we find. So it's not the usual way, for example, to cover a house. That's EPDM in this case. So it's like, so I like this, it's like the Chesterfield couch. So, and even when the wind is blowing, it's so the whole facade is moving a little bit. But now you see it's from 2006, it's quite old, and it looks exactly the same. Yeah, and that's probably the biggest project we have done, and we still do. We have been working now on this project for 13 years. Once we won the competition for the Science Park of the University in Linz. Yeah, that's one of our games. So I always say you need to keep fresh in your mind. You always need to do something. So once we tried to rebuild all our projects, for example, by ourselves, only with our bodies. Yeah, the project is probably, I don't know, I don't want to explain in detail, but it has all these bands in the ground plans and in the sections, and they all have their reasons. And you see it, maybe you see it in the section. It comes from the surrounding houses, and these ones are, for example, are from the falling winds from the surrounding hills. Yeah, once we started building, so first we started with the first building. We only got a contract for the first building, but because this one ran quite well, we got a contract for 2 more ones. That's still the first one, before people moved in. So now a few photos before and afterwards. So while building and afterwards. That's very important too, because there's a big road, and on the other side of the road there's the old university, and of course they wanted to have a connection, but that's the usual thing what they always say when in the competition. They always say try to connect it anyhow, but usually when there's a street in between, you know it's this way or that way, but usually people don't want to change their level while walking if possible. So in this case we now I don't have the section anymore, but what we did was we changed the floor level of our entrance hall. So about 6 meters, it was 6 meters lower than before, and now afterwards you can walk straight ahead without realizing that you changed the level. Here you already see building number 2. And then so actually in the competition there were 5 buildings. So that's the 5th one, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one. And then they said, okay, so there are some regulations in our country, and the regulation says, okay, you are allowed to build, I don't know, around 100,000 square meters on this field. And as we never ever will build this one, so maybe you should lift the other ones and make them a little bit bigger. So the other ones share the volume of the first one. So the funny thing now is that we are now at the moment building number 4 and 5. But what you see is only 1, 2, 3. Still number 2 inside. And that's the 3rd one. So you see that the section always changes a little bit depending on the situation. So probably the most important project in our office is this one. So sometimes ADIDAS does really, really big competitions, and they invite the most important architects of the world, and we were really very proud to be part of the competition. I think they invited 30 teams from all over the world, and so everybody you know was in there, and us too. And finally we won the competition, and we got the contract. So with a very special system. So that's what at the moment is very important for us. We are thinking a lot about what we are doing during daytime. So working is changing a lot, and the way of working and what we expect when we think about working, and as people usually spend more time at work than at home, so we need to think much more about the situation, how they work, because we think a lot about their homes, but you know, in the office you get your desk and your chair and that's it. And luckily ADIDAS had the same mind, and they were looking for so they always said we were speaking about the best office of the world and the office of the future. And we spent a lot of time creating that. So actually, that's the situation of the competition. where we tried to give them, it's like a scaffolding with boxes in it. And we were, at this time we thought about a system where you can move the boxes wherever you want to, you can fill it more or less and make the house without really changing it bigger and more space, less space. But finally came out that actually, that's actually the wrong way. The wrong way always to think about how can you change the house. Finally we realized that, so we got about, I think, 30 different working situations for this. I think there are around 2,000 people in there. And then finally we said, okay, why not thinking very hard about these 30 different working situations and giving them these situations, and don't, if possible, don't rebuild the house anymore. So don't change the house, but change the people. So change the place of the people. So the system is a little bit like, I choose the workplace of the day like after my mood. So I say, okay, I'm in a good mood, I'm in the mood for this working place, I want to have a quiet place, I want to have a loud place, I want to have a funny place, whatever. So we've tested a lot of different working situations and tried to find the 30 best ones, and now we are filling the house with these situations, and people are allowed to take their choice of the best places for them. So that was the facade. Of course, because it's a more or less a textile producing industry, so we gave them a textile facade. We wanted to give them a textile facade because finally they stopped the project. So I think it was, till now it was stopped 2 or 3 times, so it was stopped, and we got a new contract, and then it was stopped again, cancelled again, and then we got a new contract again. And now at the moment, so I don't know, anyhow they have, I'd say they've fallen in love with us, and they want to have our workplace, but they don't want our house anymore because it's a political reason. So they don't want to expand anymore. So at the moment they gave us their biggest and newest project they have, and said, okay, can't you empty it and try to put your working situations in this house? So that's what we are just at the moment doing, but we are still waiting for building this house because of course for us it's important to have the whole house speaking our language and speaking this new working situation language. So, and as we were not, at this moment, when we were not allowed to build the ADIDAS, we said, okay, then we are going to try to do it in our own office. So we found a new office, and tried to, it's not the same, of course, it's a very, very old building, so we didn't have the same possibilities, not the same chances, but what we try, actually it's like a laboratory, so we are actually trying out the different situations. So we said, okay, we are always around 20 people. So, and we are all sitting on one table actually, you can't see the rest of the table, it's a funny shaped table. And then you have a lot of different places in the office. There are around 400 square meters left where you can do whatever you want to, which you can use how you want to use it. So you can, for example, you can hide in here, or I don't know, you can play table tennis, or a lot of different situations, and we change these situations very often. So we think finally there will be, I don't know whether ever the point comes when you say now it's perfect, because now we don't have to change it anymore. Probably it will never come, because as people change, the situations have to change. And that's, for example, one of the most important hubs in our office. It's the kitchen hub. There's a lot of things are going on here, and it's so the nice thing is, so when we realized this office and when we moved to this office, so the people, they didn't want to go home anymore. So they more or less now they are living there. Don't you have your own home or something like this, I sometimes ask. So actually we didn't make everything wrong. So sometimes something must be right in here. Oh, I think, sorry, I did not want to speak about, maybe about this one, because that's the competition I spoke before. That was the starting point of our office when we won this competition. Yeah, a few high-rise things. So, and now I'd like to speak a little bit about transformation. Transformation is very, very important for architects and gets more and more important because we need to realize that the world is not endless and we can't build and build and build and build. So we need to learn to use what we have and not destroy everything and build it again. And so I do like this project very much. It's only the canal tubes. It's a rebuilt and it was a hotel. It was so they built hotel rooms in that, while Linz was the European Cultural Heritage capital in 2009. And it's difficult, but you could say it's similar when we once. So before I showed you, a chair company came to us and said, do something with our chair. And so this company did the same, do something with our chair. And then we had so many ideas. I think I only have 2 or something like that with me. So we had so many ideas, what you can do with this chair. That's why we said, okay, let's produce a calendar. And they really produced a calendar. So it's, I don't know whether you use the company Viena. It's one of the most famous office furniture companies, at least in my country. But the transformation is, yeah, for example, in this project, that's a very, very old farmhouse, more than 1,000 years old. And we put these, actually it's 2, I think it's only these 2 boxes on it. And it was heavily discussed whether you're allowed to do that on such an old building. If there is enough respect. But I don't want to speak about that. I'm the architect. I said, okay, I can do that. But the most important thing was, so it's 2 girls who are living in this house, and they are more or less artists. And they always had a living house, a lot of people there, but then they got families, and the house got too small, and then it was only a house for living anymore. And that's why they said, okay, give us a box. Give 1 box to me, 1 box to my sister, and we want to have the house back. We want to have this living house where action is, where other artists are, where happenings are, where's a house where something happens. And that's what works, and that's why I'm showing this. So it's not my fault that they have a very good view. That's the house, the front side of the house, so you don't see anything here. And here you see the old parts of the house, which are usually filled like that. So an artist is coming and doing anything. For example, that's me. I was bald-headed for about 20 years or something like that. And the nice thing was, okay, it was this old farmhouse, but it was not only 1, it was 3. And so another artist came and said, okay, I want to take the next one. And he took this one and kept it as it is and uses it as it is. So everybody said, okay, you need to get rid of it. You need to build something new there. But they kept it. They kept it and use it. And that's what I mean when I say, okay, that's transformation. So you don't have to destroy everything. And it's always, still I say, okay, it's only because of these 2 boxes we built. So that's house number 1. The 2 boxes are not here, but here are the 2 boxes. That's the house number 2. And already finished and done is house number 3 at the moment. But I don't have pictures for that. So now it's you could say it's like an artist's community. Yeah, and in the middle, So that's this middle. Oops. Yeah, you probably could see it. That's this tree in the middle of the 3 houses, and which is very often used for art installations. So, and there's one more project I'm going to show to you. I'm not so sure whether you can understand, but that's the most important project we ever did. You probably know that a few years ago, so 3 years ago, we had this. We had a lot of refugees in Western Europe, so millions of them coming through Austria, mostly on the way to Germany, but actually in Austria stayed more than in Germany, so Germany is around 10 times bigger than Austria, and in Germany they had almost 1 million. We had a little bit more than 100,000 staying in our country, and of course it was a problem. Of course it was a problem at the beginning while they were coming and moving through the country. Where do you put all these people? Usually it looked a little bit like that, and we got for the Biennale in Venice. We said, okay, we don't want to do what architects usually do, go to Venice and we call it produce ourselves and waste the money to make a big show over there. Why not take the money and help these people? And so we tried to find, you know that already, but well, I show that here because that's what these people need. When you can imagine after traveling for months and never having any privacy, nothing, it's something like you need, it's not so much what you need, but you need a little bit of privacy, and we tried a lot. We had, I don't know how many designs we had. We didn't know how to get an object to which we can fill with these people, and of course we wanted an empty object. We didn't want to only fill it with refugees. We wanted to have a mixture, because if it's only refugees, it's like slums anyway. But finally we got an object, but the object was already full, and more than full. It was a house with more than 300 people in there. And the photo you saw at the beginning was from this house. And they said, okay, you architect, now you're welcome. Because I need to tell you, so at the beginning, so when we were sitting, I think it was in the Ministry of Austria, in the Cultural Ministry, you know, when you are, when it's you who are allowed to go to the Biennale in Venice, you're very proud, and it's a very big thing. And they said, of course, they are going to help us to find a house, to whatever. But then when we've been speaking with the, I don't know how it's called, like the social head of social department in Vienna, and he was the one who should help all these people. And he said to me in front of our minister, he said, I'm sorry, but you're architect, and we are, you know, there are a lot of people, and we have to bring them through. And Mr. Architect, wherever you stand, you are standing wrong. You are always in my way. So, what do you want to do? And that's why we were really, finally, it was not important anymore whether we could get all what we wanted at the beginning, or so when we thought about building new houses, whatever. The important thing was that we finally came to the point when we really were able to help these people, and it was only, we were doing a very small thing. It's only like tents. So we say, okay, it's more room installation built with very cheap things. So actually that's the house, which was, it doesn't look like that, but it was really, really full with people. We emptied one room, and there at the beginning you saw these test installations we made in our office. So, and we were just discussing about, we need to test it in the office. So somebody needs to live in there. So maybe I'm going to test it with my family, because we need to realize whether it works when you are within a room where are a lot of people around. But then we got the phone call and they said, okay, you can come, our house is full. This house is only rented for 3 months. So you have 3 months time. So in 3 months, the people already have to live again and you can start now. So that meant, okay, if it takes only 2 months, of course it's too long. We have to start immediately. We take the stuff from our office, run over there, and then we built our umbrella things, made a presentation in front of the refugees, and they were fascinated. So it was so great to see them loving. And later on I'm going to tell you about this lady. And so the house was a little bit sad when we arrived. So it's, they don't have anything to do with them. They are not allowed to work. They are lying in their beds and looking like that. And then we came and we gave them, so it's not important what we gave them. It's important that we gave them something to do. And because we did not build the things for them, so we built it with them, for and with them. And immediately, they started sewing, and they turned on the music, they started dancing, sewing, and the project was starting. And within 2 weeks or something like that, it was done. And so that's more or less the shopping list. So the name of the project is Privacy for 50 euro within 5 minutes. Because 50 euro, that's around 50 euro, that's what we spent for one refugee. But I need to tell that, for example, this lamp. So we were looking for a lamp and thought, okay, that's a lamp from IKEA, we use it. So there was no time, for example, we didn't have time to try to get money from anywhere because we needed to build it immediately. And we thought, okay, we take the lamp from IKEA, go there and buy, I told to my employee, go there and buy 500, and afterwards we'll ask them whether we get the money back or something like that. But unluckily, afterwards we were told, oh, we've already spent, 5 million euros, so you won't get anything anymore. And when I say 50 euro, so this lamp costs 30 euro. So it was, that was a big mistake, okay? But so the rest was nothing, actually nothing. Yeah, that's how it looked like a little bit when we showed it, and I was a little bit ashamed because we tried to make it a little bit nice and beautiful. But what really was fantastic was what they did with this thing. So all the stuff you see here, because before they were living like, I don't find a name for that. But now they had it was their first own thing, and it was that beautiful. They took care of it. They tried to make it better and more beautiful. And so funny things like this, that's the bell. Ring the bell. It's important for them. And of course, in this culture, because they for example, the girls need to wear the headscarf. That you knock on the door. But how do you want to knock on textile? So that's why we, for example, we use these empty bottles. And we had a lot of cable connectors. The rest of the cable connectors we put in there, and then there's the name standing on it, and now you have the bell where you can ring. Oh, look at this. It seems to be made from us for a photo, but no. All these photos are made afterwards, after the people moved in. But of course, not everything went perfect over there. So afterwards, you will see a short film, and it's about this room. It's of course not the best room. It's probably the worst one. So it's the less beautiful one. But it has a story. The story in this room was there were about 15 boys from different countries, and it was a little bit hard to get. We went from room to room and said, okay, that's our installation. We can use it this way, that way, and we've made a plan before. And then all together we decided where we put the umbrella, how we use it, how many they want to have, and In this case, for example, from the 15 guys, 14 were here. And we started to build it with the 14 people, and after half an hour, the 15th came home. And he got crazy because he was not asked. And so the people of my office, they had to run away because otherwise they wouldn't live anymore. But then the next day, they came and said, please, 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 can we have that? I said, okay, you can have it, but now you have to wait. You will be the last one. So that's why I show this people, and afterwards you see the small film where you can see how we built this room. Yeah, and important for us was not only to help these people or to give them a home, as I said, it was to give them a sense, back the sense in their life, at least for some time. So, and as I said, after a few weeks we were done. So then we needed to find new ways for sense in their life. So, and not everybody can be a hair cutter, for example. So, so then we started with the kitchen. So when we arrived, they had no kitchen. Actually, they were not, probably it's here the same. You have big rules for kitchens. Yeah? You're not allowed to make a kitchen for 300 people. They didn't have anything. So only these, I think you see it here, we bought these 3 rice cookers, and we made this furniture. We built the furniture with them, and then they started cooking. And so till this day, they got 3 times a day they got their meal. But from this day, they didn't get anything anymore. They said, no, we don't have anything, but we are going to cook. And so 10 more people had something to do. And of course, the head of the kitchen, this one was actually, he was the boss of the house. And the first step was to help them in the house, but then we wanted them come out of the house. So that's like a Gastgarten, dining garden in front of the house. I don't have real pictures, I think, of this one. And we made the garden on the other side of the house. So, because we wanted to connect them with the original Viennese people. And so with these 2 things, with the garden and with the dining garden, that worked quite good. I'm really sorry that I don't have photos of the opening party. But what was important for us, because so after a few months when I went to the house, so the umbrellas get less and less because they didn't need it anymore, because they found other ways. They got furniture from somewhere else, and I never forget when I once came and I said, okay, I don't know whether they still have umbrellas or not, and they thought, okay, I will be angry or sad or something like that, but that's not true. I was very happy, because so we started together with them to take their life in their own hand, and that's what they did. And that's why finally there were almost no umbrellas in their rooms anymore, but you could find them anywhere else in Vienna, in the usual apartments, in parks, in gardens, everywhere. That was in another museum where we made a small installation. So if somebody is interested in the whole social story of the project, he needs to get in that. Yeah, and that was the opening in Venice, and I show that because so I was the first one to get interviewed, and the first journalist said, "Yeah, Mr. Architect, and what have you done?" So as an architect, and then that's why I said before you'll see this picture again. I showed this picture. I had a picture. It was like at the Biennale we had big posters, and you could take them with you. And I had one poster of her, and I said, "Look at her. I know that before I came, she did not speak, she did not eat, she only cried, she didn't do anything. Nobody knew how to help her, and I only know her this way. And that's my job. That's why I'm architect, and that's what we are for. That's it. And I think there's no more to say about that. And hopefully, I don't know whether it works or not. So, thank you very much. So there's one thing I'd like to tell you, sorry, it's because I spoke about the light, and the light was so expensive. But what I forgot to say is the light was maybe the most important thing. Maybe you can imagine when you live together with a few hundred people, and somebody comes at, I don't know, at midnight and turns the light off, and at 5 in the morning turns it on again. And it's not your choice, it's nothing. It's always somebody else who comes. And so that's why it was so important for us to give everybody, we said, okay, everybody, of course, has to get his own iPhones, earphones, and his own light that he's able to turn on and turn off by himself. That's it. Thank you.